Hello everyone, I'm John Pierce from Single Track Analytics, and I'm going to show you what we've added to the new BPCI 360 data tools with the October data release. The new worksheets and features we've added come out with the version 301 models. These were released in October 2015. You can tell whether you've got the 301 model or not by the file name. If your file name contains V301 in it, you are working with the current version. Subsequent months will also be the version 3 files or subsequent versions of them. One change we made to the data is that as of the October data, CMS no longer sends data for the episodes that are not at risk. So if you requested data for example, all 48 episodes, those episodes that which you didn't participate in risk will not be in the October data. So we've excluded all of the non-risk data, non-risk episodes from the October data models, and we will going forward. This means that you should hold on to the September model because it will be the last model that you'll ever receive that will have all of the episodes in it. Although it'll never be updated again because CMS is never going to send additional data for that. One of the nice features of this is that the models are significantly smaller. Some of the models that we've seen are about 20% of the size of the larger models that had all of the data. So people working with older computers may not have some of the issues that they did with some of the larger models. One of the first things you'll see in the new model is the Report Finder tab, which replaces the table of contents. This lists various types of information that the model shows, along with hyperlinks to the tabs in the model that contain that type of information. The post-acute dashboard was in the previous model. However, we changed the horizontal axis to add quarters to it. Previously, it just showed years. Adding quarters makes it a little bit more granular, and it's a little easier to see changes that happen over shorter periods of time. The post-acute readmissions report is new. It includes readmissions only occurring directly from the post-acute provider. This means that the admission date of the readmission was the same as the discharge date from the post-acute provider. This report does not include readmissions that were not directly from a post-acute provider. The report drills down to the readmission category and then down to the DRG of the admission. In this case, the post-acute provider names in this case are encrypted because this is real data, but each of these post-acute provider names would show up here, followed by this blank line is showing the episodes in which there were no readmissions, and then the number of readmissions in the circulatory category and in the musculoskeletal category for the time periods that are selected. The post-episode cost report is also new. Some of the earlier participants in BPCI are now having the post-episode cost reconciled. And so we added a report that shows the average episode post-episode cost. This report's going to get refined as we find out more about how these costs are calculated at this point. The definition of these post-episode costs is not quite clear, but we wanted to have a report in here anyway just to get started so you can see what the post-episode costs look like as they start coming up on your reconciliations. The readmissions by month report is also new. The previous readmission reports didn't facilitate looking at trends in readmissions, so this report shows for each selected quarter the readmissions that occurred in that quarter by category. This report is also new, and it shows the number of days after discharge at which readmissions occurred. It also shows the category in which the readmissions took place. This report is particularly helpful in chronic disease episodes such as CHF, where it's useful to be able to look at the types of readmissions that occur throughout the episode. This report shows for each episode the number of days that occurred until the first physician visit for that patient after discharge. You can see from this report that a large number of patients visited their physician almost immediately after discharge. but many of them waited increasing amounts of time, and some waited quite a number of days before having a physician visit. The types of providers can be filtered here through the provider specialty, so you could filter down to a particular type of provider, or you could select out different types of providers. We also provided a start on the filtering of the HCPCS category that we're using to identify the physician visit. Right now, you can select all HCPCS codes. In other words, any physician claim would count as a physician visit, or you could select only the E&M codes, in which case only E&M codes would qualify for a physician visit. One major addition is the addition of post-acute provider network dashboards. The objective of this group of reports is to allow you to define a post-acute provider network and then monitor the number of episodes which utilize that network. There's an Excel worksheet that you use to specify which providers are in your network, and then that Excel worksheet is linked into the data model so that the reports can utilize that worksheet to identify the providers who are in and out of the network. This is one of those reports. This report shows a summary of episodes that were in network and that were out of network as defined by the in and out of network table that I'll show you in a couple of minutes. In this case, we've selected inpatient rehab providers, and we're looking at the episode count for in-network providers. These providers were in network, and you had one episode to an out-of-network provider that was an inpatient rehabilitation provider. We also added a timeline for the percentage of episodes that are out of network. In this case, we're looking at out-of-network utilization for inpatient rehab providers, and you can see from the line that it's floating somewhere around 20% in the episode family that's selected in major joint episodes. Here's how you create the list of in-network providers. On this page of the report, this area here is a power pivot table that's driven from all of your post-acute providers. From this table, you select the claim roles of the post-acute providers that you want to have in your network. Generally, it's going to be inpatient rehab or SNF. This table will list the provider identifiers, provider names, and the episode counts of these providers. If you sort this table highest to lowest, it will give you your highest volume providers, which are most likely those that are going to be in your network. From there, you copy the contents of this table over into this table, which is a linked table into the Excel model. Copy out the providers. You can delete lines for providers who are not in your network. Make sure that the post-acute provider numbers are unique. There cannot be duplicates of the post-acute providers here. What you should have in this table is a list then of the provider identifiers, all of whom are in network. Following that, go into the Power Pivot model, the back end of the Power Pivot model, and navigate to the Post-Acute Network Providers tab. Once you've reached that tab, click the Update Selected button. That will update the data model to the values that you have in this table, and from there on out, any of the reports looking at in-network providers, we utilize the data that you provided here. The episode heat map report shows the post-acute services that are being provided to each episode through each day of the episode. So in this report, the rows, each of these rows is a single episode, and each of the columns is a day of the episode, going out from 1 to 30 or 1 to 60, 1 through 90. The color of the cell at the intersection of a row and column indicates the type of post-acute services that that patient gets. So for example, this patient here with the number 4 was in a SNF for this day of the episode. This lets you zoom in on a patient to see what was happening to that patient at various points throughout the episode. For example, this patient was in home health before they were readmitted. They were readmitted for about 6 days. Then they went into a sniff and they went back to home health. It's also useful sometimes to zoom out on the episode heat map so that you can see all the patients in all of the days of their episodes and get a general idea as to what happens overall throughout that type of episode. What types of services are providing for how long in the episode, what period throughout the episode do readmissions occur, where they are before the readmissions and after the readmissions, and get a general idea of what's happening to patients throughout the episode. This report shows deaths that occurred during the post-discharge period of the episode. Obviously, if a death occurs during the inpatient stay, that episode is deleted. This report simply shows the episode identifier here and shows the date of death in this column here. So that's a brief overview of the new features of the BPCI model. We hope you will find them to be useful. If you have any questions, please contact myself or Kelly Price or whoever you're used to contacting on the BPCI 360 team. And thank you for watching.